to worship with us at this service. Heritage is a church that truly means all are welcome. All of you, every part of you, no exceptions. So I'd like to offer a special welcome to anyone who's a first-time visitor. We'd ask you to sign the guest book if you haven't done that yet, and we're just so glad that you're here with us. Today's board greeter is Roger Miller, who's waving his hand at the back. And Roger would be happy to answer questions about heritage or about our faith, or let you see the church, do a tour if you'd like. Now, we know that our electronic devices seem to have a mind of their own, and they like to announce themselves at the most inopportune moments. So if you would please turn off your phones and beepers and buzzers and whatever you have, so that we can relax into the silence of this worship service. We have a very busy congregation this fall. You'll want to check the back of your order of service to see a list of just some of the opportunities of things that are happening here in the next coming couple of weeks and months. For more information, make sure you read the weekly connection that Martha sends out every Monday. And if you're not getting it, you can ask an usher to make sure that you get onto the email list. There's also great information on our website at huuc.net. Okay. But I do want to highlight just a couple of things that are coming up very quickly. Today at noon, so this is the quickest, Reverend Bill is going to be offering a Getting to Know You, which is an orientation session to our faith and to heritage and the possibility of a path to membership. And that'll be right after the service in the Heritage Room, which is like out and then around this building right here. And then Lacey Adams, our Director of Lifespan Education, is going to be offering an opportunity to deepen the theme of today's service with a workshop called The Spirituality of Democracy on Tuesday, October 28th at 7 o'clock. And looking ahead to our All Souls service in 2 weeks on November 2nd, if you have a loved one who's died within the last 12 months and you'd like them and their photograph to be included in the service, you can send that to Reverend Bill at, and I'll say this, but you can find it online as well. It's revbilllion@gmail.com. So you may have read that banner quote at the top of your order of service. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. introduced many people to the quote about the moral arc of the universe bending towards justice. But its author was Unitarian minister Theodore Parker, writing in the mid-1800s. So this call, beginning with Parker, our UU spiritual ancestor, through the struggles of the civil rights movement, and what glory reminds us of as we listen to that song, will bring us to the challenges that we face today about how we now bend the arc toward justice. So let's settle into this time as Reverend Bill calls us to worship.
As Louise said, the arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends toward justice. Not by itself, but by our hands, our hearts, our faith. This morning we gather to remember that faith is not belief alone, but love in action. We come to renew our courage, to steady our hope, and to place our hands once more on the ark. Come, people of conscience and compassion. Come, builders of beloved community. Come, let us worship together. Thank you, Sherilyn. Our opening hymn is entitled, "We Shall Not Be Moved." It was sung by folks, enslaved persons, and then it's also been used in the civil rights and labor movements. If you're not familiar with it, could we maybe just play that chorus one time, and then we'll sing the verses? And then I'll ask you to stand as you're willing and able, and remain standing for the covenant. now we'll hear from our Director of Lifespan Faith Development, who's not here but on vacation. We're still going to hear from her, though.
Good morning, all. I am Lacey Adams, Director of Lifespan Faith Development here at Heritage, and I am so glad to be able to offer our Time for All Ages today, even though I don't get to be in the sanctuary, because it's something very dear to my heart. The impulse for us to make our world a better place is an important part of our community, but it is also a really important part of my life, the love of my heart, the yearnings of my heart, and my understanding of how I am a person of faith. Sometimes we can think of social justice as a political matter. And there are many, many things in our current politics that are important to address from a social justice perspective. But social justice isn't just about, or in my case, or maybe in your case, it's not primarily about politics. It is about values, how we value ourselves, how we value each other, and how we make the world a better place so that each and every one of us can have the best life, the best thriving that we can. Thriving isn't a political matter. It is a yearning of our heart, and it is an expression of our faith. So, I want you to think about what it's like when you dance. How do you dance? Do you sway? Do you twirl? Do you dance with a partner? Or do you line dance? Each and every one of us has a way of dancing, a way of moving our body in the world, a way of moving through the world. That's our dance. Our dances are as unique as we are as people. They are different. And each and every one of us has a thing we love to do when we dance and a thing we never do. I mean, who's ever been dipped when they dance? That's not my experience of the world, but I am sure someone has already raised their hand to that. How many of you have danced in line dances or circle dances? I know, someone's raised their hand, but that's not really been many of our experiences. I have line danced just a little bit, but never circle danced. So each and every one of us have a way in which we move through the world. The dance is in this way a metaphor of the kinds of ways in which we interact and express ourselves, interact with our world, interact with each other. The dance is a way to think about the work for justice that we do. The dance is how we do our own justice work. Now here's the part that matters. Is dancing better or worse with music? You're right. It's better, generally speaking, with some sort of music. Music helps us all be in sync, even with our distinct dancing. Music helps us to be connected. It helps our heartbeats beat as one as we enter into the dance. In this analogy, we might say that the music is whatever our higher power is. For me, I would say that the rhythm of justice in the world is the heartbeat of God. And that when I pick up the music and when I join the dance, that is an expression of how I connect not just to myself and to the world, but to God. But not everyone is going to use God language. Some of us will say that the music is the music of love that connects their heart in a loving way with others. And some of us will say that the music is really our deepest embodiment of being human, that our human capacity to connect is the music that gives us rhythm. We might not have the same word for the music, but the music is that thing deep in us that connects to the world. It connects us to each other and to our greater world. Our work for justice is made stronger when we engage in the dance, not just our own dance, but with the dance of a wider community. And our work for justice is fueled by our connection to the music. The more we hear the music, the more we share the music, the more we can talk about the music, the deeper we can get. Not just in our work for justice, but in the way in which we can imagine justice. There is a rich world inside of you and each other that's ready to connect with our world, that is desiring to do justice, that is ready to connect to the music, whether or not that be the music of God or of love or all of our humanity or our deep connection to the natural world. When we do this together, when we dance together with the music, we have the incredible power to know ourselves better, to love one another better, and to ground our work for justice in something greater than ourselves. We are capable of that, and that is capable of fueling us and grounding us. So I hope that each of us, young or old, can embrace our own sense of the dance, but that we can also connect our dance to the great music that lends us towards, that sets our feet to, that enlivens our body towards justice.
Thanks, Lacey. Or if you're on Zoom, thanks, Lacey. Most weeks here, our children join us for the first part of the service, and then after this time for all ages, we sing them out with one of several songs. Today, we do so with the Reeb Benediction, named for Reverend James Reeb, who you'll hear more about a little later. So kids who'd like to leave, you can do so with Kelly and Cheryl, who are going to have some fun activities for you. You're also always welcome to stay in the service. It's your choice. Choose your own adventure. Let's sing them out.
Here at Heritage, we love to say that you can say this with me, celebrate life, create community, and seek justice. One of the ways we celebrate life and create community is through our ritual of candles of community. There's so much joy in life, but life also has challenges and deep sorrows. And in this community of love and compassion, sharing our joys can amplify them. Sharing our concerns and our sorrows brings us the loving support to carry on. Zoomers, as we begin now this ritual of candles of community, you're welcome to go ahead and begin to put your candles in the chat, and then we'll read those once we've finished with folks in the sanctuary. So during our candles ritual, Steph will light a candle for each person's sorrow. Please remember that you can always ask her to light a candle in silence if you prefer. And the birthday jar is here to recognize any anniversaries. So if you'd like to begin by lining up on the sides, and then you can return through the center. So first of all, there are a couple of previously emailed candles. The first is from Gloria Walker. She says, "Hi, please send healing energy to me for many issues. Thanks." And from Carolyn Grady, "Following the decline in my brother's physical abilities, a CAT scan revealed a brain bleed. He was operated on early this week to relieve pressure on the brain, and he's recovering in the ICU and will need to go to rehab when he's able. So we'll hold Carolyn's brother in our prayers." So are there joys and sorrows now in the sanctuary? You can go ahead and line up on the sides. We ask that you give your name and a brief sharing of what's on your heart. So then, Steph, if you'd light one more candle for the unspoken joys and sorrows that remain in our hearts.
you could join me now in a spirit of prayer or meditation. Spirit of life, source of love, we're thankful for this community, this sacred space, this time of reverence. It is here that we are reminded that beauty and hope remain. Here that our hearts stay open to the pain of one another and of our world. May these candles remind us that every life, every struggle, every hope is a part of the great web that binds us together. In a world so often turned toward division, let us be the ones who turn toward healing. When fear hardens the heart, may compassion soften it. When weariness dulls our courage, may love restore it. We hold in prayer those who grieve, those who rejoice, and all who labor still to bend the long arc toward justice and peace. Now let us enter into a moment of shared silence, to breathe, to remember, and to listen for that still small voice within. May this silence strengthen our resolve and steady our spirits. May we rise from it renewed in hope and grounded once more in love. Amen.
So, here at Heritage, I guess I love some of the ways that we say things over and over so that it becomes who we are. We begin our covenant with, love is the spirit of this church. The quest for truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. And there are so many ways we go about those commitments every day. They're personal, individual, or within the Heritage community, searching for our own truth, caring for each other, sharing loving kindness with everyone we meet. But at this moment in the history of our nation, our search for truth is met with the stark reality that on a much larger scale, our democracy is being eroded, the rule of law is being trampled, and the freedoms we believe belong to every person are being denied. This is not a truth we ever thought we would have to deal with. But through the lens of our principles and our values, we recognize the danger of this rise in authoritarianism. The Unitarian Universalists across the country are being called to respond with, and I'll put this in quotes because this is the way the words read, faithful defiance of authoritarianism, with efforts to protect democracy and freedom. The call went out at our annual UU General Assembly this summer for each congregation to take two bold actions, specifically to adopt a congregational resolution and to form a democracy action team. And we at Heritage are answering that call. We are drafting our resolution and we are taking actions. A few of us from the Social Justice Collaborative stepped up to start the process. And it was clear and essential from the beginning that a congregational resolution and actions need to represent the voices of the whole community. So an invitation went out congregation-wide to be part of the process. The level of concern we're all feeling showed up as more than 25 people came out on short notice in early September to start the process to respond to this call. And 2 teams were formed, the resolution team and the democracy action team. So I'm going to share a little bit with you about the resolution process, and later in the service, Sue Yucks will talk to you about the action team. So adopting resolutions is not a frequent activity at Heritage. Resolutions begin with whereases and they end with therefores. It's a formal style to state the reasons for something and the actions and commitments that are going to be taken because of it. A resolution, I'm not a big AI person, but it shows up when you Google something. According to Google's AI definition, is a permanent and official record and serves as a formal declaration of intent. So our resolution would be an affirmation of our principles, a recognition of the threats posed by the active eroding of democracy, and our pledge to take action. The resolution team includes 8 members: Karen and Bob Rush, Mimi Sinclair, Bob Booth, Joanne Meyer, Russa Rougeau, Frank Collins, and myself. And the team members attended the board meeting in September to ask for the board approval to go ahead with this process. With board support, the next step was to listen. Listening to your thoughts and concerns has been the #1 priority of the team. In the 2 listening sessions we held after services, we heard from as many as 45 folks. And what was important to you? The inherent worth and dignity of every person, equality, the right to use our voices to speak our own truth, protecting the right to vote, defending democracy, concern for immigrants, our essential commitment to love expressed in kindness, the need to find ways to cross the chasm between us, and a belief that real change happens when we break down the barriers that divide us. You all may also be thinking of other things that you'd like to remember and you think are essential, and I'm happy to hear those after the service. So the team is completing a draft that compiles your input. We'll send it to the board for the board approval at the November board meeting. And then this document that we created together will be ours, yours and mine. It will be up to us to make it a living commitment, one that we embrace as a congregation, not just a few individuals, each of us doing our part, small or large, because our children and future generations are depending on us. Dr. King often spoke about the trainings that they did with would-be marchers or lunch count sitter-inners or bus boycott walkers. This was for them, as it is for us today, a spiritual journey to live out our principles and values when it isn't easy and when it may even be dangerous. To help us delve into this spiritual journey, Lacey will be offering a series, the one that I mentioned earlier, that begins on October 28th with the spirituality of democracy. And then she'll follow that with the spirituality of tikkun olam, which is the Jewish phrase for repair of the world. And then conclude with the spirituality of resistance in the next few months. To stay in the struggle for the long haul, we need each other and we need our faith. So let us make this promise today to live into our resolution, to put our intent into action together as long as it takes to let freedom ring. I want to make sure I'm not taking away someone else's papers.
Thank you, Louise, and thank you to the resolution team for the work you're doing on behalf of all of us. Each week here at Heritage, we celebrate the practice of generosity, sharing from our abundance with those who carry our values into the world. This morning, our shared offering supports the American Civil Liberties Union of Ohio. The ACLU works every day to uphold rights of all people and defend the very heart of our democracy. For individuals and for groups facing oppression, discrimination, or attack, they stand as advocates and allies, often speaking out and taking action in places where we as individuals cannot easily go. In this way, the ACLU becomes a bridge over troubled waters, lifting and carrying those who've been pushed to the margins, helping them find firm ground once more. As we prepare to receive today's offering, may we give generously, that our compassion might become the same bridge, steady, enduring, and wide enough for all. May our gifts flow in love, and may they help bend the arc toward justice. Thank you for your generosity and for your hands and hearts helping to bend that arc toward justice. That same spirit of justice is alive in the work of our Democracy Action Team. Sue Yucks will now share how our congregation is putting into action the values out in the public square. Sue? Use the handheld.
How about that? All right. So, I'm speaking on behalf of the Democracy Action Team, of which I see some of the members here. We have about 8 people on the team. And as you know, and it has been said, that we are facing unbelievable challenges in this country. So, and I know that I feel very honored to be part of a church, a congregation that really is so dedicated to visibly living out our values. And yesterday, when I went to the No Kings, I went to Eastgate. All right, thanks. So some of you went to Smale, some of you went to Eastgate, some of you went to other ones. I know Westchester back here. And of course, we all wore these new t-shirts. And I don't know about you, but I really had a lot of comments, especially from people that were standing behind me. And they would comment on these values. They'd be like, oh, atta girl, amen. And it gave me an opportunity to say, yeah, Unitarians, we feel like defending democracy is sacred. And they would say, it is. And so really, that's what we're trying to do, is raise our collective voices in the community, and that's what we're doing on the action team. So we've aligned with different groups in the community, like Brewing Change. I see someone from that group. Coffee, Compassion, Action. Indivisible, which was the organizer of No Kings. And Red, Wine, and Blue. They're doing so many things in the community, so we don't need to reinvent the protester wheel. But we've been participating in planning protests, including the No Kings, and joining rallies, participating in vigils, and we are trying to get the message out to the community about, really, to put it bluntly, what is fascism? And to educate the community in that respect, and to make ourselves visible as Unitarians in doing that. It really does take courage. It is a civic duty. Lots of people commented on that too, like, oh yeah, yeah. So there are a lot of ways that you can get involved. And one of the things, like Lacey said today, that dance is no good without what? Music. And you know what? Protests are no good without music either. We need lots of creative ideas. And that's one of the reasons we get together with people, other groups in the community. We need your energy, because I've witnessed over time just the potpourri of skill, people in this congregation, and creativity, talent, raw talent. So come to us, the Democracy Action Team, or join us. We would love your ideas because you've seen it yourself with protest, with memes, all of those things. It's comedy, it's storytelling, it's dance, it's music, and it's art that really brings the absurdity home of what is going on in our country. And I don't know about you, but there are times when I feel beleaguered. There's a lot going on in our lives, right? And in my own family sometimes too. And sometimes I feel a bit dismal. But the things that keep me going are, I have a daily mantra that it's a historical statistics that I read, that it only takes 10% of a population to do sustained activism. That's what topples an authoritarian government. That keeps me going, along with being a part of you all. And you know what? Activism is fun. I mean, we have freaking fun, right? Yes, we do. And that's a part, you know what? Even if you just bring a sense of humor to us, but you feel like, I don't have any talents, but I'm kind of funny or whatever. You know what? That puts hope in people's hearts, right? And that's huge. So you do have something to give. We have created a document that is out there on the table in the right outside here, and in the social hall, and it gives a list of all the resources, things that you can do, big and small. Sign a petition, call our elected representatives, all different kinds of things. And it's a living document. We keep adding new things onto it. So that is the call today. It doesn't take, you don't have to commit so much, and I know that sometimes people have huge issues going on, but just little bits. It's all of us together. All right? Thanks.
Thank you, Sue, and thank you, Democracy Action Team. One year ago, on a quiet street in Selma, Alabama, I stood here. This spot outside a diner where Reverend James Reeb was attacked by white supremacists, beaten for marching with Dr. King and 2,500 others. The white 38-year-old UU minister and father of 4 died 2 days later of those wounds. 2 weeks later, 20 miles away, Viola Liuzu, a white mother of 5 and member of the Detroit UU Church, was murdered for driving freedom marchers to safety. Standing at their memorials, I felt the weight of what they had risked, their safety, their lives. And I asked myself, what risks am I willing to take for justice, for love? The truth is, most of us won't be asked to risk our lives. But there are always risks. Risks of speaking up, of stepping out, of being uncomfortable. And there are also the risks of silence and inaction, the risks that the ark remains unchanged. As some of you know, 2 weeks ago I returned to the South. In Atlanta, I sat with and interviewed Ambassador Andrew Young, one of Dr. King's closest colleagues. Later in Montgomery, I stood in Dexter Avenue Baptist Church where King preached courage into history. I asked Ambassador Young about James Reeb. His 92-year-old eyes lit up. He's often asked about King, but seldom about the white Unitarian Universalist minister. Ah, Jim Reeb. Yes, his showing up, it made a difference. It was a turning point. He went on, he never thought he'd give his life for a cause. No one does. But he showed up. It was a few years ago while rereading Dr. King's letter from the Birmingham jail that I recognized myself as the white moderate that he had described, the one who preferred the absence of tension to the presence of justice. That realization began to bend my own arc toward this ministry. I've titled this reflection, Bending the Arc. It was, as Louise told you earlier, the Unitarian minister Theodore Parker who coined the original phrase. It's often paraphrased. The original is this: the arc is a long one. My eye reaches but little ways. I cannot calculate the curve and complete the figure by experience of sight. I can divine it by conscience. And from what I see, I am sure it bends toward justice. Parker's 1853 sermon, 1853, of justice and conscience suggests that progress toward justice and equity might be slow, but that it is inevitable. Nearly 100 years later, Dr. King's paraphrase that the arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends toward justice, became the one folks remember. And I'm not one to argue with either of these two moral clergy ancestors. But I wonder, who does the bending? How long does it take? Why does it seem to keep springing back to its original shape once we ease up on the pressure? The visionary abolitionist Theodore Parker raised the conscience of his faith and a sizable part of this nation in the fight against slavery. In the mid-19th century, Dr. King and fellow civil rights and faith leaders elevated the issues of their time with fiery words and direct action. They did not go it alone, though. Many Unitarians and Universalists fought with Parker for the abolition of slavery. And there were approximately 2,000 UUs who participated with Reverend Reeb, Reverend Young, and Dr. King in the attempts and eventual crossing of the Edmund Pettus Bridge. Over 2,000 of us. And they were not the first to risk speaking truth to power. No. In the Old Testament, it's Nehemiah who led direct action events confronting the nobles and officials for their greed and injustices 2,500 years ago. And then there was that well-known activist, what's his name? Jesus of Nazareth. Yeah, who challenged religious and political leaders speaking up against hypocrisy and injustice. But what of these times? Which are the voices that speak truth to power today? Well, yesterday, it was many of you, many of us. Show of hands. How many were involved in at least one of the actions around the tri-state calling for a return to our democratic values? Wow. Look at that. Some of you on Zoom were there too. I saw you. And kudos to the two initiatives of our Social Action Collaborative for helping us clarify our position and encouraging us toward action. Members of this congregation have long been involved in making the community better in so many ways. What I sense is different this time is the recognition of the need to do this together. And for that impetus toward action to be grounded in our theology. If our actions are to last beyond the moment, they have to be rooted in something deeper than mere outrage. They have to be rooted in faith. And whether you prefer our more traditional principles or our newer expressions of values, we're on solid footing either way. Justice, compassion, equity, pluralism, interdependence, democracy, and transformation, all centered around love. This is us. Just look at the back of those new t-shirts. Who had one there? Yeah, we don't just wear our values on our sleeve, we wear them on our chests and our backs. And I would have worn mine, but I was out in the sun for 4 hours yesterday, and you'd have smelled me coming. Theologian and activist Cornel West coined the phrase, "Justice is what love looks like in public." And I love that we are sharing the love that's the spirit of this church in unison and in our new uniforms. Showing up at rallies and protests and vigils is vital. But bending the arc also means showing up the next day for the hard, slow, unglamorous work of compassion, of policy, of presence. Parker didn't say that the arc bends automatically. He said he could divine it by conscience. That's the moral vision sustained by spirit. So what are the spiritual practices that keep us connected to that still small voice our higher selves, Lacey mentioned? How do we stay connected to that moral universe that some call God or Great Spirit or the greater good, especially when it means sacrifice? Well, it helps that we do it in community. We are connected to one another in mystery and miracle, and we feel this during the candles of community. We feel it when we sing together, hold hands together, pray together. Yesterday we rallied. Today we worship. Tomorrow we go about our daily lives. And that may be the most important place for our justice work to show up, in the everyday. In workplaces and volunteer activities, with our families, or at the grocery store, as we drive through neighborhoods whose needs are different from ours, or as we drive past signs and flags that make us cringe. Through the frustrations of our everyday, that we try our best not to take out on others. The arc of justice is not only on the grand scale, but also in how it weaves into our actual living of our lives together from week to week. Not all of us march. Not all of us write policy or even write letters to those who write policy. Some bake casseroles for those who do. Some teach our children stories of courage. Some hold a candle for those who can't yet see the light, even if they're in our own families. The arc does not bend by a single hand. It bends because of the collective weight of love in all its forms. You know, in studying the Montgomery bus boycott, it was fascinating to learn how many small roles that were played in that narrative. It involved more than 50,000 participants. Some led, some sat, like Rosa. Some refused to ride for 381 days. That's a lot of sacrifice to maintain a boycott. Others provided transportation, food, allyship, or funding. So when I ask you in just a moment to consider the many and diverse ways that we can live into these values, I invite you to internalize what that means to you, to us as a faith community. How are we called to play our part in the current narrative? What comes to mind? Anything. What's one of the ways we are called? What's that? Letters to our legislators.
And phone calls.
Phone calls to our legislators. Voting, helping others to vote. How about writing letters to corporations who are supportive of our values or corporations who are not supportive of our values? What else? Did I hear one? Laughing.
Continuing to stay in touch with our elderly who are unable to get to these events, and keep them informed, but also just to give them the care and love that they so need.
Yeah, Valerie suggested several things that people might not have heard, but staying in touch with others who might be on the margins, including older folks, helping them get to the rallies. There were a lot of folks at the rallies, and many of them were older than I am, and that's saying something. And there were some youngins there too. Ellie, you got something?
Well, yesterday I talked to a woman at the rally. She said, I have 14 grandkids, and I text them when it's time to vote. I make sure that all those grandkids are voting.
Every one of her 14, she came across somebody who said that she has 14 grandkids and she texts them all to make sure they get out there and vote. One more back there?
Singing with like Martin Luther King chorale, carrying the message of freedom to our community through our voices.
Yeah. So singing together, especially across differences like race, etc.
Qualified charitable distribution.
Giving money to this faith community, giving money to organizations like the ACLU, so many things. We all can do something. So keep doing that. One of our consultants over the summer, Reverend Mitra, suggested that love and justice for the world begin sometimes even closer to home, here, in our families, even with ourselves. So when each of us offers what we can and trusts others to offer what they can, the work becomes sustainable. That's what community means. That's what covenant means. Hope is not a mood, it's a discipline. It's what keeps us steady when the headlines wear us down. King trusted the Ark. Parker trusted conscience. And we are asked to trust one another, to believe that love still has power, even when the curve is long and the end is nowhere in sight. Because bending does not happen once. It happens over and over. Each time we choose compassion over comfort, truth over silence, community over convenience. And when we tire, and we will, this is when we remember why we do this together. The work is heavy, but so are our hearts when we forget that. So we gather to sing, to pray, to rest our spirits, to remind one another that the long arc still needs our hands. Some of us bend it in public, at rallies, in letters, in marches. Some bend it quietly, by listening deeply, by feeding someone, by teaching that child courage, by forgiving when it's hardest. Each act of love, each stubborn gesture of kindness, each refusal to give up is a small weight on the side of justice. And together, those small weights become the gravity that pulls the world toward mercy. So my friends, let's keep showing up. Not just once, not just when the cameras are rolling, but as a way of life. May our faith be the force that steadies our hands and strengthens our hope. May our lives be gentle, angry music that keeps the arc bending, slowly, stubbornly, toward justice for all.
Harvey Milk was an American politician, the first openly gay person elected to office in California as a member of the San Francisco Board of Supervisors. Harvey Milk was murdered on November 27th, 1978. And the amazing musician Holly Near wrote a song to call us all to action in response to his murder. So please rise if you're willing and able and join in singing Gentle, Angry People.
we go forth in gentle spirit and strong in love, carrying the work of justice not as a burden, but as a blessing. May the ark of the moral universe feel the weight of our compassion, and may our hands never go until it bends toward justice. Amen. Amen. May the Spirit